Randy Orton is one of the all-time greatest wrestlers and one of the all-time greatest hunks in wrestling. So the fact he adopted a little bit of my facial hair, I take very, very well because
What up, everyone? Shak here for Cage Side Seats, and you know who this is. Now, you can free your narrative, but this guy authored the book. No, it's not Randy Orton with facial hair. It is, of course, EC3. How are you, sir?
Shaq, I'm wonderful. And may I just say, Randy Orton is one of the all-time greatest wrestlers and one of the all-time greatest hunks in wrestling. So the fact he adopted a little bit of my facial hair, I take very, very well because he's the man, dude.
Well, you know, people tell me often that I look like Pete Davidson, and he almost bagged Ariana Grande, so I'll take that with a lot of pride.
I would take Randy Orton over the old Andy Samberg comparisons I got. Although Andy, when he cut the hair, he looks good too. I don't know. We're all handsome.
He's a leading man these days. But anyway, neither here nor there. You and I could do this for ages. But there's so much to talk about. You teased it to me that you had some monstrous news, and you were not kidding.
Yes.
EC3, Adam Scherr, formerly Braun Strowman, Free the Narrative 2 on October 1st.
Correct.
How did this match with Braun come together?
This match came together because this man knocked on my door. I think you saw the video that we uploaded this week, and that is actually the extended ending of our very first Free the Narrative feature, available through freethenarrative.com and Fight TV. It's only $5 on freethenarrative.com, so I suggest going there first. But that was a stringer ending to our first feature. Nobody really caught on to exactly who it was, but now we get to tell you exactly who it is. Adam Scherr is looking to control his narrative, and I'm the man he came to.
So let's talk a little bit about actually, we'll get to that later. But first, you know, you're doing these sort of cinematic events. We're used to seeing cinematic matches in pro wrestling nowadays, but to orchestrate a whole event is a totally new idea. Can you tell me a little bit about like the business model? Does this operate like a traditional wrestling promotion, or is it more of a movie almost?
This is not a traditional wrestling promotion. There are no titles. There are no accolades. The fight in the narrative is the fight for yourself, for your freedom, to take back your control, to find your purpose. It's created for a true creative outlet for any talent that feels stifled, lost their way, looking for reinvention. This is a place I want to build for them to come and do just that. So it is not traditional in that sense. And I think now that it's getting a lot of attention, that cinematic matches jumped the shark a long time ago. Like, this is not cinematic matches in the sense where EC3 has mystical powers where he's going to reappear and disappear, and there's, you know, bells and whistles and special effects. This is a cinematic wrestling experience. It's professional wrestling shot cinematically. We have a camera in the ring, we have no referee, and we have just different angles that we want to bring an intimate, up-close view for the viewer to not only feel the physicality, but also feel the emotion that we as performers go through when we're struggling, when we're succeeding, just the ups and downs. It's a real emotional roller coaster that goes far beyond, I don't know, let's just say the typical horse shit you see on TV nowadays.
How much of this idea do you sort of credit to the pandemic? Because it's sort of, in that sense, it kind of came at a perfect time. And do you expect this to evolve in presentation as the world hopefully eventually starts to return to what it used to be?
Evolution in this industry is very important, not just from a character standpoint, from the business as a whole. So what we're doing here with my co-creator, Jedediah, who's also the narrator of Free the Narrative. The pandemic really spawned it because we needed something to do. And we made a mission early in the pandemic to kind of challenge ourselves, but challenge other people. It was a dumb little video we made, but to do something during this time, read a book, write a book, paint a picture, make a movie, film something, just do something outside the box and different. When I was released from WWE, I had 90 days to evolve myself into what I truly wanted to become and who I truly am. So the idea came about simple as my co-creator Jedediah suggesting you should have your very first match yourself. Correct. And we're very inspired by the Fight Club mindset. So we kind of build our promos and lead up into what would become my debut match, which the same day I debuted back in Impact, but my first match, I couldn't trust it to anybody, especially being like an established name. So it's very easy to rest in the past. There's plenty of people that wanted the top 1% to come back and work for their promotion in a typical sense. But after what I've been through personally, the true, real journey I went on with my WWE experience, concussions, firing during a pandemic, losing it all, like you can't just come back and act like nothing happened.
So that really, really ties into something that I wanted to bring up, and I was trying to figure out where to fit it in, and you did it perfectly for me. It's interesting because, like, how much you kind of touched on, you kind of explained it already, but how much of the EC3 do we see now is really EC3 the person? Because not only do you present a different character in matches and in promos, but in your interviews, this is not the same guy who was being interviewed when he was in Impact or when he was just back in NXT.
Right. There was, I guess, a blind allegiance to my corporate employer at the times, and there was probably a feigning of happiness because I was, in theory, living my dream, so to speak, with Impact, getting the opportunity, becoming a world champion, becoming a mainstay, becoming a top name there, going back to NXT, coming back to whatever 5-star match, having fun, having a good run till, the eventual hellish landscape call up. There was happiness, and I don't want to say purpose because that's what I'm going for now, but there was a sense of well-being that I was doing the right things. But when you do the right things, this is something I often tell younger talent. When you're a good soldier, you're going to be the first in line to get shot. So being a good soldier for that company, they had no problem shooting me. So front lines, and that's fine. That's okay. So as a person, as a character, we all know the best wrestling characters, so to speak, are extensions of someone's real life personality. So I wear a lot of what I do. It's very personal. And it's almost therapeutic. And I think a lot of the talent that have come into the narrative through this have seen that and are experiencing it themselves. And I think Adam Scherr is going to be the prime example of somebody like, you think this man has it all. He's a WWE champion. He was on top of the world. He's been on top for many, many years. This shocking departure from the corporate wrestling world is all he knew. That weighs on a man, no matter how big you are, no matter how tough you're perceived to be, no matter how strong and tough, I already used that. Good one, Michael. No matter how strong you are. So a lot of the talent that have come here have seen the emotional journey and growth through it. So I think that's what intrigues so much talent. It's just a matter of getting it into the fans' perspective, because fans, they want new. They always want new. But when new comes, they don't really recognize it until they do. And so to do that, you just have to keep putting it out there. And you can't make this kind of content, this avenue, just for fans, though you want their support, A, from a financial standpoint, but B, because you want the recognition for doing something great and different and bold. But you have to make it for yourself. And for so long, talents, no matter what company, some claim they have creative freedom, they're working for somebody else, and they're not. I notice this a lot. Nobody's truly becoming who they're supposed to be or really feeling who they are in this landscape currently. So this is for them as much as it's for fans.
Speaking of the fans, how did you gauge their reaction to the news that you versus Adam Scherr was taking place? Because sometimes I feel like the Free the Narrative takes a while to put all the pieces together, and sometimes fans are wondering, where's EC3? What's EC3 doing? And then you come out with a big announcement like this.
Right. Well, I'm in Ring of Honor, and then people who
those wrestling fans for you.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to say disheartening sometimes when it's like, oh, where's this happening? Impact, AEW. Like, neither of us work there. No, this is the lack of grasp of that. Professionals can completely build something independent of everything and do it for themselves on their own. Is lost a little bit. Not to all, but to some. And so when you look at comments like that, it's just like, do they not get it, or am I not doing a good enough job of explaining it? Which is, I'll take accountability on that. People that do get it, people that saw our first narrative at www.freethenarrative.com. Available now for $5, and it'll probably be streaming very soon on a major service, which is very exciting news. But you watch that, and then
Can
I
you
think
tell us what service?
No, because I didn't sign the paperwork.
All right.
I don't know. It's named. Maybe it's named after a planet, or maybe it's not a planet anymore. I don't know. Okay. Who's to say? Do you get it?
I got it.
Okay. So laid it on pretty thick.
Right.
Yeah. So being able to see that, and it, what I did with Matt Cardona, I think too, he took that to become this deathmatch king. So there's like circumstances to what we're providing within the realm of wrestling. I view the narrative, I guess, content that lives within wrestling, but is its own. Like, hypothetically, are you a nerd? Did you watch Star Wars?
Oh, don't get me started on my Star Wars obsession. We're going to be here for a lot longer than we're supposed to be.
I won't, but imagine episodes 4, 5, and 6, the original ones, the ones that are actually good. There were so many books that intertwined what happened in between. And there's that sub-content that's really engaging in other characters and so many different things.
Also all retconned now, but neither here nor there.
I disagree, Disney.
I disagree with Disney too.
Tell me Shadows of the Empire isn't better than any of that horse shit they're putting out. But, so that's the way I look at it, is it lives in between what is currently taking place. And I want the circumstances to mean something when somebody comes through us. What they do next, maybe it's not blatantly like, oh, he spent time in the narrative, look at him now. It's not that as much as this man, this woman has changed and they are different. How did that come to be? And kind of the first experiment with it all was with Moose.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Matt Cardona, and I love, I think in 2021, pro wrestling is a place where you can have all these different pockets that all intertwine almost into like a multiverse kind of scenario. Matt Cardona, you mentioned the death match. He goes on to do something crazy with Nick Gage in GCW, and I love the way they put it together. Did you see any of that match, and what was it? What were your impressions of seeing Matt go not through just a death match, but that kind of death match?
The narrator and I were watching it very closely. Very large majority of our feelings were perfect. It worked. He went on and did something different. And then the fact he liberally borrowed the interrupting the podcast that I did to him, that's fine too, because, it was a great idea. Thanks, Jed, for that one. That was a good one. No, but seeing that play out, and maybe it's just a small minority of fans at the time were like, they saw this progression through this into that, and that's very rewarding. So like I said, when you make it for yourself, having just some people tied to it it feels good. But I like how you use the word multiverse, because the end game of this is, we want the Marvel universe in wrestling, so to speak. And then, hey, maybe we have the Avengers in narrative.
Yeah, they're already doing it in AAA, so
yeah,
good time exactly. Good time to get started.
Every fan knows there's other promotions that exist within this world, and we all know each other. Like, we've all worked each other. We like each other. We dislike each other. There's so many interesting stories that go beyond the 3-letter corporate brands.
So talking about the 3-letter corporate brands, there's one last question I had regarding your WWE stint. I want to paint you a theoretical here. So I'm not talking to the EC3 of today right now. I'm talking to the EC3 of 2018. If AEW were in 2018 where it is right now, do you think EC3 would have still gone for WWE, or would he have maybe played the field more?
He'd play the field, probably, seeing what was happening. I had a great time in Impact, but it was time for me to go at that time. It was mutual too, because I've done everything. I'm always looking for what's next, and it's almost to a fault. So I already did everything I needed to do there. And of course the door was always open because we had a great time together. But if there was other options, it would definitely be considered playing the field for sure. And I think the top 1% could have came in, kicked ass, been champion. And then maybe that young upstart could have slayed him for the crown of entitled rich kid. And then, I would have showed back up with a shaved head and a goatee, and I've been controlling narratives immediately afterwards. So it would have been a nice story. But
Okay.
alas.
I usually put out a thread on Twitter and Reddit to get some fan questions in. Sometimes they're not very good. Today I gotta give Reddit credit. Yeah, some good ones.
Reddit's good. Reddit's good.
Yeah, we got some good ones on Reddit today. So
I'm
in May 2020. Sorry?
Go ahead, I said I'm going to do an AMA on Reddit
Do it.
soon.
Yeah, they'll love it. But probably will be happier to hear directly from you versus having to go through the filter with me. I like to think I do a good job of filtering.
I have an inside man on the propaganda wing of Reddit.
Oh,
so.
Well, 2021 has been nothing but propaganda talk, right or wrong, so it's a good time to do it. May 2020, there appeared to be a collaboration between you and FTR. Perhaps Rockstar Spud was in there. Can you tell me a little bit about what the plans there were?
There were ideas thrown around where we wanted to self-create some things before it was the narrative was full tilt, but yeah, there was an idea of like a Horseman-esque kind of thing we tossed around and played with, and then pandemics prevented one of our days of travel to actually shoot the stuff, and then they kind of went their way, and then I was going my way, and then Drake returned to WWE. So that's a good that's like a depth question, because it's just like a small hint, you know, and that would have been like, yeah, very.
I should have taken the credit for myself, but hey, it was a good question, so gotta give it up.
So I mean, that would like, what a good idea that was. Yeah. Too, and then there was I was kind of hesitant too, because I'm like, I don't look that part anymore, and I'm doing this, but that would have been awesome. And they're the best tag team in the world, and Drake's one of the greatest wrestling brains in the world, and all around, I mean, best body, best mind, best personality, best looks, best facial hair. So yeah, we would have it would have been money. I think I wanted to call it Rich.
Easy to brand. Easy. So your hair versus hair match with Rockstar Spud always gets a lot of love. Some people were wondering, what do you think are some of your most underrated matches that you personally are a really big fan of? Someone threw out the Full Metal Mayhem match with Matt Hardy.
Yeah, that was a really great one. That was probably the first one that came to my head. And then I really, with Matt, the double turn we did, I believe it was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And that was my first defeat. I wasn't pinned, but there was the fact, like, Matt Hardy had such a legacy and a name and was so beloved by the fans. And when you do something with Impact, it just feels it might be a little smaller scale. And maybe the storytelling is disjointed because we were taping TV in such blocks that, will the fans live get it because they're not seeing the stuff that's going to lead up to it, but they got it. And we pulled off this amazing double turn. And Tyrus turned on me. There was the A2 Brute moment. And my favorite part of that too is that Matt kept busting me down, doing everything he could to break me down. Nothing worked until he took the one thing that brought me there, the one thing that I truly loved, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And that was the death blow. And he got me with it. And that's what kept me down. So deep storytelling, that would be one. Man, I don't know. I don't talk about how good I am sometimes, so.
Don't reminisce on the good old days enough?
Rarely. Yeah. There was this match with NXT that kind of went under the radar with Lars Sullivan that was just with so much of what they do, smaller guys doing cool things. Like, we went out there and just beat the living shit out of each other, and I really liked that one. It's just something different. I always try to do whatever's different. The match I had with Jay Briscoe at Ring of Honor 19 was one of my favorites, despite there being no audience, just because I was very committed to telling a long form story simply without the bells and whistles of reversals and false finishes and things like that, because that's what everybody does. So he was a very willing partner with that, and he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with. So that's one too.
As we wrap up here, speaking of Ring of Honor, it's going to come up every time. Ring of Honor is very intrinsically tied to the roots of AEW, yet we're not seeing a whole lot of partnership now. Would you like to see, if you would, what would you like to see out of a future between ROH and AEW?
I would, first off, we should play bold and do some things that bring attention to what is a very talented locker room and a very great product, and it's just getting the eyeballs on it. Obviously, a partnership with AEW does that in a sense, but at the same time, it's just been done with Impact. So as opposed to rehashing the past and the nostalgia I preach always against. We are always doing the same things. And like, I don't want to do something that's already been done as much as do something that's never been done. Ring of Honor is sitting on a giant library of extremely crazy content I'm creating on my own called The Narrative, where I have Braun Strowman's first non-WWE match. Yep. Like there's buzz in that, I would think. But also we have a pay-per-view. We have Death Before Dishonor coming up in Philly at the 2300 Arena. I'm in the world title match, so, I'll win. That's cool. And maybe as the champion, I will bring the brand the attention and notoriety it deserves.
Could you defend the ROH title in a Free the Narrative event? Would that be on the table?
In a legal, like bells and whistles, I guess that would. I guess that would be worth lawyers. We don't have lawyers in the narrative. We don't have a budget because there is no money in this narrative. But two, the narrative is not about titles. It's not about accolades. It's not going to be about who's a champion here or who did what. It's about who you are in that moment and who you are when you come in and then when you leave.
Okay.
Control, freedom, purpose. That's what it's about.
Let's leave it on here. You've got Death Before Dishonor, September 12th. You've got Free the Narrative 2, October 1st. The floor is yours, EC3. Tell the people everything they need to know.
I think we did.
Over the course of 22 minutes, that and some Star Wars. So it was a good interview on my end.
Shadows of the Empire. A good one. I mean, I just remember that super cool game. Was it N64?
Yeah.
Like, this game's way better than the movies.
Dude, oh my gosh. Then I read Jedi Academy, Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. We could do this for hours.
It is canon. Let's first off say that Disney, you gotta stop ruining our childhoods. Okay, they've been ruined enough. Our whole lives have been ruined the past 2 years. Would you stop? Can we just have something nice? Secondly,
they're doing a decent job with Marvel at least, so I give more credit to Marvel there.
I mean, we'll see. But I do think, like, after Endgame, how do you come back from that?
I'll give them some credit. This is the thing. At some point, it's almost like comic books. At some point, there's just too much, and you kind of have to zero into your lane. But the new Spider-Man movie, it seems like they're tying it into all the old Spider-Man movies to sort of clean it. Yeah, so Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 is going to be in it. Green Goblin appears to be in it. Jamie Foxx's Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man's in it, and the rumors are that they're going to make like a multiverse with Sony and Fox and start bringing X-Men in and start bringing all the other Spider-Mans in, so to at least clean up. Because what I hear from a lot of like non-sport superhero fans, like, why are there so many Spider-Mans? And then you have to get into like the legal situation of it all, and I think this is their way of sort of rectifying that. But I'm blabbering on. Our views are dropping off a hill right now.
No, they're not at all. Oh, man. My head's spinning thinking about it. But you brought up a good point about, like, it goes so far, you got to scale it back. That's the same thing with wrestling. I wish during this pandemic, when we're working in front of no audience and stuff like that, we could have scaled back a little bit to now that when we're coming back with audiences, then we can bring out more. But everyone just was conditioned to do the same thing. So you're diving in front of nobody. You're kicking people in the face 20 times in front of nobody. Like, we could have went back. There wouldn't have been a loss of interest. Reset almost, make things mean something again, then we move forward, and then that stuff that means stuff we're now expanding on. But yeah, whatever, I have theories, so what? I'm a genius, it's fine. Speaking of genius, www.freethenarrative.com. Check out the original narrative, currently on our Vimeo, currently on Fight TV, currently in negotiations to debut on a network platform that is super cool. Then www.freethenarrative.com. You go there, you're like, oh, there's a pre-order for Free the Narrative 2 featuring Adam Scherr versus EC3. I got to get eyes on this shit. Well, that's 10/01. 21 going to be debuting within the Vimeo, but at the same time, other partners will be getting the content as well to purchase and or stream. We are planning on hosting a Orlando watch party September 30th, so stay tuned for that. We will be having actually a giveaway for airfare and flight to come down here, live a day within the narrative, where I'm going to pick you up from the airport and take you on the craziest day ever. Then we're going to go to dinner. Then we're going to watch Free the Narrative 2, and then we're going to have Q&A and K, which is questions and answers and karaoke afterwards at a sick little dive bar. So that sounds fun. Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor. Watch me become a world heavyweight champion again. Well, it's just a world champion again. That's going to be September 12th. And I believe it's on Fight as well, right? Yep. What else? At The Real EC3, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, www.freeec3.com. Get some wearable propaganda. As you can see, I have one of Adam's new shirts on. Rise. What is he going to rise at? You'll find out October 1st, 2021. Thanks, Shak.
Thank you. To whoever wins the Dream EC3 prize package, remember, Star Wars Shadow of the Empires. That is your way into EC3's heart forever. If you like the video, thumbs up, subscribe, tap notification bell, all that good stuff. Hey, EC3, thank you for the video. Yeah?
I think we have a dormant YouTube that we could get some love to. What is it? Control Your Narrative? Yeah, Control Your Narrative on YouTube. But soon, the narrator and I will. Soon, the narrator and I will be starting a Control Your Narrative weekly. That's going to be sort of a live stream podcast format with different sort of interviews, content. A lot of the people that made the narrative possible were projects, I call them, but independent wrestlers who I've met who came knocking at me for an opportunity. So we'll be featuring them. A lot of things I plan on doing. Hopefully we make them happen. Oh, check out Free the Narrative on Spotify and Apple. Our soundtrack is awesome. All of our music is original and it rules. Done. Okay, now I'm good.
Fantastic. We'll leave it right there. Hey, thank you so much.
Wait. No,
okay,
hold
go.
Oh, hold on, I forgot. I have
cliffhangers.
join.freeec3. Yeah, join.freeec3.com, my project narrative nutrition and training app. Yeah, I also make you workouts and diet plans on the side because I want to see people progress, not only mentally but physically. So yeah, I do a lot of shit.
I mean, this is a 2D display, but the bicep veins are popping through 3 dimensions, so
it works. All right, I think I nailed it all.